Here are the solutions for page 8 of the second review packet for Algebra 2. It starts off with a scatter plot. It says it shows the average cycling speed as time passes. We have two questions dealing with this scatter plot, number 38 and number 39. Number 38 says use the points 5,15 and 25,10 to write the slope-intercept form of the equation. So that's the y equals mx plus b form for the line of fit shown in the scatter plot. So unfortunately, this is not as easy as you think it is because they gave us 2 points instead of a point and a slope, or the slope and the intercept. So to write slope-intercept form, we're going to need to first find the slope and then plug that number in along with one of the points and solve for y to find y equals mx plus b. So our first step is to find the slope. So step 1 is to find the slope, which we're going to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 to do that. And there's a whole bunch of examples of these earlier in the notes, so I would hope that we remember that x1, y1 is our first point and x2, y2 is our second point. So the slope here would be 10 minus 15 over 25 minus 5. Which would be negative 5 over 20, or negative 1/4. So there's your slope. We do need that. Then we're going to plug into point slope form. I'm not really sure what I was trying to spell there, so let's just back that up. So we're going to plug into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 because we have that information. We have the slope and we have points. And it doesn't even matter which point we use, but I'm going to use the one that I already marked, x1 and y1. So y minus 15 equals 1/4 times x minus 5. And I'm going to solve for y. Okay, so I'm going to distribute the 1/4, which would give me y minus 15 equals 1/4 x minus 5/4. Notice how I'm not turning that into a decimal. I'm not writing negative 1.25. Not doing it. This is Algebra 2. You should be using fractions, not decimals. Then we add 15 to each side. Now adding 15 to a fraction, don't make this hard. You have a calculator. So put that in your calculator and do negative 5/4 plus 15. That will give you the slope-intercept form, y equals 1/4 x plus, and then again I said do 5/4 plus 15, so use your fraction button. You should get 65/4. I do not want you to give me the decimal. I don't care that that's equal to 16.25. It is sloppy to have a fraction and a decimal in the same equation, so keep it a fraction. Number 39 wants you to predict the speed of the cyclist after 30 minutes. So this is going to use your answer from number 38, which was y equals negative 1/4 x plus 65/4. And we are going to plug in x equals 30. So y equals negative 1/4 times 30 plus 65/4, and then we feed the calculator. So that would be 35/4. Now, this is a word problem. So at this point, I would be okay with you turning that into the decimal 8.75 because it wants you to predict the speed. Well, we would say 8.75, and then our units would be in miles per hour, which are the units given on the graph. So 8.75 miles per hour would be the answer to number 39. The remainder of the page are all dealing with writing out slope-intercept form, point-slope form, standard form of linear equations. So we're going to work through these, but these should all be easy Algebra 1 problems. We really shouldn't need too much review on this. Anthony's reading a book with 256 pages. He reads 14 pages every day. Write a linear equation in slope-intercept form to find the number of pages left after d days. So they want us to use d instead of x. Okay. We're starting off with an initial value of 256 pages, so that is our b value. And if he is reading 14 pages per day, that tells us that our slope is negative 14 because there are 14 pages being removed from the number of pages left each day. So we would say y equals negative 14d, not x, because they want us to use d, plus 256. That would be the linear equation they are searching for. Okay, number 41 tries to trick you, and it's not, really shouldn't trick you. It's actually really easy. They're giving you 2 points in a table, and they're asking you to write the equation of the line. So we need a slope and an intercept. Well, the y-intercept is when x equals 0. Hey, look, x equals 0, y equals 6. That means b equals 6. As for the slope, when we look at a table, we're supposed to find the change in y and put it over the change in x. So if we look at the y, it is increasing by 4. So the change in y is 4. X is doing the same. It is also increasing by 4. So the change in x is 4. That means the slope is 4 divided by 4, or 1. So the equation of the line would be y equals 1x plus 6. Number 42 asks us to write a point slope, slope-intercept, and standard form of the equation for a line that passes through point negative 1, 2, and has a slope of 4. So they're giving you an x1, a y1, and an m. You need to start off with point slope form, because that's the first answer. And then we're going to convert that by solving for y into slope-intercept form. And then we are going to convert that, which might require us to clear a fraction, into standard form. That's the order we need to go in, okay? We're going to start with point slope, which is that one. Then we're going to do slope-intercept, which is that one. And then finally we're going to do standard. So, point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. That is y minus 2 equals 4 times x minus negative 1. That is the first answer. That is point slope form. Now, if we're going to turn that into slope-intercept form, that is a two-step process. The first step is to distribute. So that would be y minus 2 equals 4x plus 4. And then the other step that we need to do, because we're solving for y, is we need to add 2 to each side. So that would give us the slope-intercept form of y equals 4x plus 6. That's your second answer. Now again, we did standard form a little bit ago on a different video. Well, I did it a little bit ago. You probably are looking at this video all by yourself. We need to look at the x value and decide if it's positive. It is positive, so we are not going to move the x. We're going to move everything else because x in standard form has to be positive. So we're going to move the y by subtracting y from each side, and we're going to move the 6 by subtracting 6 from each side. That will give us negative 6 equals 4x minus y. Now that doesn't necessarily look like it because we have to switch the left and the right sides, but that is in standard form. So there you have it, point slope, slope-intercept, standard form. Okay, number 43, which is the final question on the page, shows another table. It shows the cost of a Black Forest cake at 2 different bakeries, Julie's Bakery and Baker's Hut. And it shows you the cost and the delivery charge per mile for those Black Forest cakes. The question itself says find the distance for which the two bakeries charge the same price. So what we're going to do is we're going to write out equations in the form y equals mx plus b for both bakeries, where y is the total price and x is the number of miles, for the delivery. So it'll be in miles. So if you look at this chart, you actually have the slope and the intercept for both companies. The initial cost of the cake is your intercept, and the cost per mile is your slope. So for Julie's, we would have y equals 20 cents per mile, so 0.2x plus $15 for the actual cake. At Baker's Hut, we have 15 cents per mile, so 0.15x plus $20 for the cake. This is essentially a systems problem where we're supposed to take that and plug it in here for y. So we are supposed to solve the equation 0.2x plus 15 equals 0.15x plus 20. Now that's, it's got a decimal in it, but it's not any harder than any other linear equation to solve. We need to move the x's to one side, so we subtract 0.15x from each side, and we need the numbers on the other, so we subtract 15 from each side. When we do that, we get 0.05x, check your calculator, equals 5. 0.2 minus 0.15 is 0.05. Then we divide by 0.05. And we get x equals, and put it in the calculator, make sure you don't screw it up, okay? 5 divided by 0.05 is 100 miles. That would be the distance, the delivery distance, for which these two bakeries are charging the same price. In other words, if you are within 100 miles of these two places, you would want to order from Julie's Bakery because that cake is cheaper to start with. But if you're more than 100 miles away, then you would want to order from Baker's Hut because it would end up being cheaper after the travel. That does it for page